Hello and welcome. Did you know not all buildings are built the same way? Although they may look the same, they perform very differently. These are called non-traditional buildings. Non-traditional buildings can have very different problems. Some of them have such big problems that the government stepped in to designate them as defective. Having said that, non-traditional buildings for the right person who knows and understands what they are buying can be a good buy, and often they can be below the price of a traditionally built house. In this video, we give you an overview of the types of non-traditional buildings, but we also have more specialist videos, and also you can phone us for specific advice if you so wish. This is a good place to start. What do non-traditional buildings look like? They can look very different or very similar to a traditional building. This can be both the problem and the benefit. Non-traditional buildings can also be very unique, as owners will often have extended them to make them fit for the way they want to use them, or they may be trying to resolve inherent problems. We believe there have been different eras and reasons for building non-traditional properties over the years. It could be argued they fall approximately into these timescales. From the 1920s to the 1950s, we had to build quickly following the World Wars. The 1960s to the 1980s was when we used innovation in construction and used materials in different ways. And now, when we are again looking at different ways to build, incorporating new standards with regards to energy efficiency. To some extent, we will always have non-traditional buildings as we experiment and look for ways to build better. Often, this will have a focus such as speed of construction and cost of construction, and also adding in new factors such as increased insulation. This means there are opportunities and risks with non-traditional buildings. And remember, as we always say, a little knowledge can be dangerous. Please call us on free phone 0800 298 5424 or email help@firstassociated.co.uk. We are going to quickly summarise each one in turn. Concrete has been around since the Roman times. However, it very much came to the forefront in the 1950s and 1960s. Reinforced concrete can be very strong and also very adaptable. However, it does take time to dry, which is why one technique for non-traditional buildings is precast concrete. Also, within a factory environment, the quality can in theory be controlled a lot better. There is then the risk of the building being put together on site by inexperienced workers, and there are also some inherent design defects with this type of property. The right-hand side picture here has been designated defective and is what is known as an airy house. Generally, this is the type to avoid, although there are times when buying this type of property can be advantageous. It depends upon your risk profile. Let us move on to the next type of non-traditional building, which is also concrete. Concrete in situ is where it is built on site, and it can be argued this is a more skilled operation. Providing you have the skilled labour on site and have good weather, you can get as good, if not better, results than precast concrete. But it is probably fair to say that every job is down to the skilled labour on site, which is where a building survey comes in to help find any problems. We were also experimenting when we were carrying out this type of construction using additives and accelerators. Both precast concrete and in situ concrete were built to different standards in years gone by, and the cover of concrete over the reinforcement wasn't adequate in many instances, which has led to rusting of the reinforcement, which causes deterioration in the concrete and eventually will cause the concrete to crack and be visible on the concrete panels. You have to look very carefully for these, as they are often filled in and painted over or covered over to stop further dampness getting into the area and to hide all problems when properties are being sold. These things need to be examined. When the government investigated concrete buildings of this era, they found lots of problems just as we do when we survey them today. Metal frame buildings are still being constructed using I-beams and RSJ rolled steel joists. We're also using them a lot for extensions in properties, but they are very different to the older style metal frame buildings, which were a lot more lightweight than the current standards. They also pose various problems when trying to bring them up to modern day standards, such as the difficulty with rusting and deteriorating metalwork, and also problems with regards to the fire rating on the metalwork, and also the problems with interstitial condensation. It is amazing how the metal frame can be hidden with cladding or brickwork, so you do need to make sure you are not buying a metal frame building by accident. This type of building can on the face of it be a particularly cheap purchase, but you do need to be aware there was a lot of asbestos used with this type of building. Metal frames today used in the right way are used for not only housing but also shops and high-rise buildings such as offices, and are predominantly used in warehouse construction. Next, onto Tudor timber frame buildings, and there have been various types of Tudor timber frame over the years. If you think back, most people will know what a Tudor timber frame building, also known as a black and white building, looks like. It's the classic Tudor look building. We were very skilled in building them, and our main focus for many hundreds of years was the timber frame. Have a look at these photos. This is the historic background to timber frame construction, although when we advise about modern timber frame buildings, we are generally talking about timber frame buildings that were built from the 1940s to about the 1970s. We are not particularly keen on these either as a new build. The modern timber-framed house, although it may be brick or stone on the outside, internally has a timber lining. We are still finding problems even on those buildings. The difficulties with the older timber frame from the 1940s to the 1970s is the lack of insulation and ventilation, and the jury is still out as to whether the newer timber frame buildings have similar or different problems with insulation and ventilation. You may wish to watch our other property videos, or you can phone us on free phone 0800 298 5424 or email help@firstassociated.co.uk. There are windmills, oast houses, holiday homes, park homes, fishermen's huts, equestrian properties, and the list goes on that are classed as non-traditional buildings. We would be more than happy to talk about any of these buildings or any form of non-traditional buildings. Our survey findings go into our survey report, where we highlight the good, bad and ugly of what we find. The good because there is generally always potential with every building that we look at. The bad highlights things that can be sorted out, but you do need to be aware of them and negotiate on the price. And the ugly are things you need to decide whether you want to get involved with, subject to a good discount, or whether you want to walk away from the property. Sometimes the best decision can be to walk away from the property. We will help you to understand the property you are buying. This will then help you to get the right property at the right price. Thank you for watching. To contact us, please free phone 0800 298 5424 or email help@firstassociated.co.uk. Thank you.